Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi-Thorin Alliance. In today's video, we'll be doing another TV show recommendation for July. If you can, like and subscribe, leave a comment down. So to start off with, would you like to give your recommendation for your video first, Luke?
Yeah, so we picked three each. I've recommended first, I'm going to go with a show called Power, which is on Stan. Mentioned this a few times to you. Power's one of my all-time favorite shows. It's not rated that highly, but everyone I know that's watched it likes it. To summarize Power, it's based in New York City around people selling drugs, and the main character wants to get out of selling drugs and wants to move to a more legitimate lifestyle, but he's quite heavily involved. He's very rich. He lives a lavish lifestyle, so he's trying to find a way to stop doing illegal stuff and to buy legal businesses, and he wants to move into being a politician and owning nightclubs. And it's just a really good show. It's got 10 seasons, and they've now added sequels and prequels to the show, which they call Power Books, even though the original show is called Power. So which can be a bit confusing. So we've got Power, which is 10 seasons long. We've got Power Book 2, which is a sequel to Power, but that also has a second season coming out, which is confusing. And then there's Power Book 3, which is a prequel to Power. So it does get confusing, but I've yet to see the sequels or prequels, but I've been told that I should watch them. So that's why I'm adding this as a recommendation, because I'm going to myself go and watch them. And it's a show I think others would like. Have you seen any trailers to it, or do you have any intrigue in seeing it?
Yeah, maybe one day. What would you say is the best thing that the show does? Is it its story, or its action, or its characters? Why should people watch Power?
I think the characters, they're villains in a way because they are doing illegal stuff, but you're cheering for them and hoping that they get away with it, which is a different dynamic for a show. It's very much like that Breaking Bad kind of idea that Walter White's a criminal, but you want him to get away with his crimes. It's kind of an interesting lifestyle. The gang violence is interesting. Something always happens. There's lots of action. Lots of people get killed in this show, but it's more the chase between watching the police try and hunt the villains or the main characters, and you watching it unfold and go, oh, they could be caught at any moment. So it is for 60-minute episodes, 10 episodes a season for 10 seasons. So there's a lot of content you spend. There really is no boring episodes. It's actually full on the whole time. I think some people have given it bad reviews because maybe there's too much violence, but I think it's a great show. I'd recommend it to anyone. And the latest sequel/prequel. What's the first show you want to recommend for next time?
Panic on Amazon Prime. So the concept of Panic is that it's in this town in America, and that they're in high school, the main characters, and that they basically do this like events and kind of challenges to win money at the end.
Okay.
And how the name comes into it, they basically got to scare themselves and do things to prove to keep moving on throughout the events.
Okay.
But there's also the police are trying to work out like who's involved and what's going on. And the interesting thing is that it's been going on for quite a long time. So there's like judges involved, and they like judge things.
So where's this show set?
America.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of it. So it's reminds me of So are they? So what? They get set challenges, and when they complete them, they get some kind of points, and there's a winner at the end, or
Yeah, there's like a point system, and it's kind of how well you do and things like that.
And what they have to do risky things like hang off buildings or something. Or
The first challenge is like jumping in like a dangerous situation in water, and then the higher you jump, like the better off.
Do people die in this show whilst completing some of the challenges, or?
Yeah, it does get that bad, so the challenge can continue.
It reminds me of a show. I cannot think of the name of it, but Emma Roberts is in it, and it's a movie where they on like a phone they get given like challenges, and then you got to complete and you make money, and people can live stream and watch you do the challenges, and it just gets riskier and riskier. It like without seeing the show, it sounds similar to that. And how many is this a limited series or?
From reading the article, the writer, because the show is based off a book, so the writer has made it that it has potential for other season, but she's written it if it doesn't get renewed, it had a conclusion. And I think it's good if a writer does that, write it in a way that if it doesn't get picked up, and it kind of felt like that because the game there's mystery at the end, but it kind of doesn't matter if you don't find it out because it's a sort of show. Because there are also problems in the show because it's basically a two-sided show. It has a lot of drama, and when the show doesn't focus on the actual stunts, it's not as good. Like when it focuses on when they actually do the stunts, it's like a 8 or 10 out of 10. But when they don't do the stunts, it's
so the drama they add into it is not interesting. It's only the stunt part that's.
It's amazing when they do the stunts. Like the stuff that they come up with is really cool, but the characters kind of drag it down with the writing. I can recommend it because when they do the stunts, you're on the edge of your seat, like watching them. But when they do their normal drama stuff, it's like, I kind of want to get to the stunts.
So you're satisfied with the season ending?
Yeah, I was happy with it.
Would you like to see another season, or you think it's ended that you don't want to risk another season ruining it?
Well, the concept is that the high school students, it always changes, so the next lot of college students take over, so...
so it could be an ongoing, thing, okay.
Yeah, so, because how it is that the child of the sheriff, killed himself, and then that's why the police are involved, because someone actually died from the previous group.
Okay. Any notable actors or actresses in this that I might know?
Don't think so. It's mainly a teenage cast, and then the police are the adults.
Okay. I'm interested in seeing. I might have a look at the trailer after this video.
Yeah, I would highly recommend to see the stunts, but that's why I still recommend it. It was a good show for the stunts, but when you watch the drama parts, it's kind of but still recommend it because, like I said, the writer did it in a way that she didn't plan for a season 2 because it's based on a book. And you can kind of see that. That's why I can recommend it, because it's worth the journey for the stunts. And yeah, the main character as well, who's a female, is okay, but the writers kind of write it that she has protection prop armor so she can stay in the competition.
Okay, I'll have to have a look at it. My second show I recommend is Kim's Convenience, which... It's got a few seasons on Netflix. It might be 5 or 4, and they've added another one, or a new one's coming. I'm not fully all the way through it, but it's a good little sitcom. It's got little 20-minute episodes. maybe 20 episodes a season, and it surrounds a Korean family that owns a convenience store in Canada. So it's a bit confusing, and it just follows kind of the day-to-day life that goes on in a convenience store with their family and friend drama. Similar to Superstore, but on a smaller scale. I enjoy it because there's the subtle, I wouldn't say subtle actually, there's just like humor around like being someone that's Korean, that's living in a foreign country and kind of adjusting, and some of their jokes and cultures. I guess it could be seen as racist for some people. I find it funny. I have quite a few Korean friends, and it just reminds me of them and a lot of the things they say and do. The reason why I recommended it, one, there's a new season coming out, but one of the main characters, the brother or son in the show, he is casted as Sang-chi in the new upcoming movie. So it's kind of cool that if you've seen the trailer, you'll recognize this guy, and you can kind of see where he came from. It's probably his big break into the world of acting, and it's just funny. It's easy to watch. I sometimes just chuck it on as a random episode here and there, and the few people I've suggested to watch it, they've taken it on and liked it. Is it amazing? No, not really. Is it funny? Yes. It achieves what it's aiming to achieve. So I'd recommend it for that case if you just want something quick and easy to chuck on. You're looking for a new sitcom that is a bit different than other ones out there.
So I guess, does it more focus on the jokes throughout the journey, or is there actually a story line, or like with most comedies sometimes there's a story within the episode and then it's kind of self-contained and then it kind of there's a looping storyline?
No, I think the show progresses. It's not like each episode's its own thing. Like the overarching theme is there's the husband and wife that have the convenience store. They have the daughter who I think she's about 20, 21, and she's at art school studying photography, so that kind of builds through it. And then they've got the son who lives by himself and he works at a car rental company. So their storylines kind of progress through like finding relationships, running the convenience store, progressing in their jobs in that sense. So it is moving forward. But it's got a lot of little tiny like Korean-ish jokes. Like the dad says some real funny things, and just the way he says it in his accent or his like view of things. He has his friend who's Chinese, so they try and add some Chinese Korean jokes. Yeah, it's different. It's probably not for everyone, but if you are looking for something different, it's worth giving it a go because it has a lot of like one-liner comedy in it. Yeah, the dad particularly is quite funny, and you were saying that he's in the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
which we've talked about a few times. I've watched 1 or 2 episodes of The Mandalorian and didn't enjoy it, so I didn't see him in the episodes I watched.
he's in season 2.
Oh, okay.
Do they have any rival other convenience stores, or is there like a rude customer that's just a jerk and racist towards them or something like that?
Yeah, there's a bit of that. There's a few customers that they are ongoing in there. I guess somewhat of a rivalry is the fact that the son doesn't talk to the father.
Oh, okay.
So that's why he lives... Well, he's also older, but he lives by himself, so they're trying to like repair the relationship there. But it kind of surrounds like the values of the father wants the daughter to...
Take over?
Yeah, or take over the store, or he wants her to find a husband, but she wants to be an artist, and there's kind of that, and like he doesn't respect art. He thinks like in one of the episodes she has her photos and then he goes and takes other photos and he tries to sell them in his store and see which one will do better because he doesn't respect her art. And yeah, it's just like little funny bits. It's one you got to watch. If you don't like the first episode, you won't like it. If you like the first episode, you'll like the rest. What's your next recommendation?
I guess my next recommendation is The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. That's a limited series, and the concept of the show is about chess, and the main character is a female, and she's a orphan girl, and the show kind of does the same to your first show. You said it
Power.
from the last season. It started from the reverse, kind of showing the events. The Queen Gambit does the same thing because it starts with her being drunk and then kind of going to her opponent, and then it starts from how she got there.
Okay.
Well, I guess is a clever way to kind of show how she learnt and then faced her opponent. And she's a really interesting character, and it's a really cool storyline about, you know, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, learning chess, and just I would definitely highly recommend it because it's a contained storyline. It finishes, and the chess scenes are pretty amazing. It's a pretty good show to sit down and watch throughout the story because it starts, it finishes, and it ends.
So it's a limited series?
Yeah.
How many episodes?
7.
Long or short episodes?
They're around 50 to 48 minutes. The last one is like 107 minutes.
Okay. It's a show I haven't had any interest in watching, but I know a lot of people that have. When it first came out, it was kind of around start of COVID lockdown, so it was kind of one of the top trending shows. It was like around that like Tiger King era, like when Tiger King was popular because there wasn't much to do. I think that came out around the same time or just before. So I've heard good things about it. I don't know if I'm convinced yet that I want to watch it, but I've heard good things.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah. Maybe one day it might resurface for me. I might give it a watch. Do you think you need to have an interest in chess to like it?
No, it's still a good show if you like competitive sport and just, you know, it's entertaining just to watch her learn how she actually got to where she came from. It's just a good story because it finishes and it starts.
And where's the name come from? For some reason, when I thought it had something to do with the Queen of England, but it doesn't. Has it got to do with the Queen as in the piece in...
It's a chess.
Yeah, okay. Okay. For some reason, I thought the show was about the Queen. But yeah, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
My third show. It's an interesting one. I'm going to recommend Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun.
Haven't heard of that one.
It's a show you either have or you haven't heard of. It's about 3 Australian comedians who, prior to the show, I had not heard of, that are actually really popular on YouTube and doing the comedy circuit. And they do lots of YouTube skits, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 minute videos of just random stuff, like where they pretend to be different characters and they just do random stuff on YouTube, and they have millions of subscribers. So then what happened was Netflix had picked them up and said, hey, do you want to make a show? So they made a skit show, which is, I don't know, something we haven't seen in many years, but it used to be common on TV, where like comedians would make little tiny, like there'd be a 30-minute show with, I don't know, 5 or 6 different skits, and there'd be reoccurring characters over the seasons. And it's kind of how like Peter Hellier and a lot of Australian comedians had started their rise to fame. And it's something that's disappeared, but they've now brought it back, and Netflix threw all this money at them to make this show, and it's actually produced by Ed Helm, and it has some big stars in it. Like one of their skits has what's his name, Homelander from the Boys. There's I'm trying to think. There's a few surprisingly famous actors in there. Huey from The Boys is also in it. I don't know why there's so many characters from The Boys, even though it's a Netflix original. And it's just random skits, and it's like well over the top. It's either you think it's funny or you're going to think it's the stupidest thing ever. But I reckon it's worth having a watch. The first 5 minutes of it, I thought this is so dumb, and then by the end I thought it was hilarious, and I watched all 6 episodes back to back. And then a week later, I watch it again with a friend, and then I watch it again later on, and then I'm now watching it again now. So it's very rewatchable, but it's silly. Like my wife thinks it's the dumbest thing ever. She won't watch it, but I find it funny. So it's worth a look. Australian comedians. The reason I picked it is not because it's new, because it's been out for a little bit, but because Auntie Donna are now doing a tour around Australia, and they're touring their show in a live format. So if you haven't heard of them, or you've seen them around recently being advertised, maybe watch the show, see if you're interested, and then maybe buy a ticket and go watch them live.
So is there a common story thread throughout the skits, or is it just to entertain?
It's more
people?
purely for entertainment. There's some reoccurring characters from YouTube videos that have been in, but there's no real reoccurring characters within the show. There is a theme to each episode. They keep saying there's the word of the day. So in an episode, someone will say something. So let's say they might say, this episode might start off with a pirate looking for treasure, and then the episode surrounds the word treasure in some way. But yeah, it doesn't really carry on. Each episode's random, and there's not really a conclusion. It's just a skit show designed to make you laugh, and it's really highly reviewed. So people that like it love it, but if you don't, you probably think it's dumb and turn it off. So suss it out. The first scene is them singing a song about everything being a drum in their household, and they're banging on walls, and it's really silly, but it's funny. So if you don't laugh at that, then I wouldn't watch any further of it, because if that's not funny to you, you won't find the show funny. But yeah, give it a watch. I think it's funny. What's your third show?
Watchmen on Binge, and Watchmen is a graphic novel, and it's set in an alternate version of Earth, and basically it's police officers wear masks to hide their identity. So the KKK, as we know, are white supremacy, who are white racists that don't like black African Americans. And then this show, it's kind of basically the cops are trying to hunt down the racists, and then it's kind of got a lot involved with there's one superhero in the show, Dr. Manhattan, and then the show kind of swaps between because it's also in Jupiter, so this science character that actually killed like 24 million people is in there doing like experiments, so he can actually come back to Earth, because the main concept, because how the show actually starts is that the police officer actually gets killed, because in this alternate reality, police officers, in our guns we can just shoot, but their guns, they actually need authority to shoot the gun. And he was on the microphone trying to get access, and then the white racist shot the cop in cold blood. So the cops are like, we need to get these white racists. And then the conflict, it's a lot to do with family and history. It's quite confusing with that, but the main storyline is that the white racists want to kill black African Americans, and Dr. Manhattan is the person with superpowers.
Yeah, it seems interesting. I've seen pictures of it, and you've shown me a few scenes. So do they reference why they're on Jupiter and not on Earth, or that's just ignored? We just assume that Jupiter's where people live now? Or?
That's where Dr. Manhattan sent the weird scientists.
Yeah.
And there's like, he's got like servants, and there's like clones of them.
Okay. And were you satisfied with the conclusion of this being a limited series?
Unlike the Queen's Gambit, that gives you a ending that's, a satisfying, the Watchmen gives you a more ending that It either ended two ways and you kind of come up with the ending for yourself.
Okay, sometimes those can be hit and miss. Like being able to pick your own ending can be satisfying, but then also be disappointing. You'd rather be given a clear ending and then being happy or disappointed, but now you're left with the choice.
Yeah, it's up to the viewer to decide, was that good? Like, it ends with a cliffhanger, but it can either be two options because the conflict ended, like the main villain, that kind of resolves and, you know, all the things kind of happen, because it actually does a flashback episode really well with the grandfather, and you kind of get to see how the superheroes and how the masks kind of start. Because the KKK actually involved, or like police back in the day, and you get to see stuff like that.
Is it set? You said it was set future,
alternate, like Earth.
Yeah, but do they mention, like, reference what year it is, or
no?
Would you say it seems futuristic or kind of modern times?
Modern times, but just different, like, ways how the setting is.
I'd be intrigued why the writer wanted to focus on the KKK, like to create an alternate universe and the KKK to be such big villains. It must be some kind of, like, meaning behind it, or...
Yeah, it's based on a graphic novel, and it's like a sequel to graphic novel, so...
Okay. Yeah, you've shown me a few scenes. It does look somewhat intriguing. Don't know if it's my thing per se, but I'd probably be willing to give it a go. So how many episodes was there again?
9.
And how long are they approximately?
Around the 50-minute mark.
Okay, so it's about, you're looking at 8 and a bit hours of viewing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that could keep someone entertained for a weekend if they wanted to binge it, or...
The highest thing I would recommend is that it's got a simple story, but it kind of does it in a confusing way, like with the family lineage, where characters are and what they're doing. But it's basically the main female characters trying to work out what's going on, and things are happening, and yeah, there's one superhero, but he doesn't get involved until later on, and it's, you know how in like Marvel and stuff like that, powers are more shown. It's kind of nice to see that he's not taking over from the main character. That's, you know, it's kind of equal. It's good to see.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, so there are 3 shows. Any other questions, or do you think we'll leave it for the viewers to go and decide which one they like or which one struck their interest?
Well, I guess we did a good amount of different genres and different stuff like that, and hopefully they were good recommendations.
Yeah, cool. So we'll be back next month to do this again.
We'll see you next month. Thank you for watching. Let the force be with you. Like and subscribe. Take care. Bye-bye.